So the Clifton Strengths is an assessment that helps you identify your natural areas of talent. And Gallup, that puts out the assessment, has identified 34 themes of talent. So things like activator, things like individualization, empathy, learner, like you mentioned earlier. And it helps you identify where your natural talents lie. So I got my full 34 profile. So from number 1 to number 34. And it helped me again see and validate, who I was and what I was doing. But now I had more information to go off of. So I actually started looking at the full spectrum and probably did what a lot of people do that you're told not to do with Clifton Strengths, which is look at like the lower end of my spectrum. And it's human nature, right? And we've been taught, we were taught in school when we got if we got a report card, if we had a C in one subject and an A in all of the other subjects, we focused in on the subject where we got the C, not in the subject where we got the A's. When we're given performance evaluations at work, very little time is spent on the things we're doing well, and we focus so much on the things that are not going right. And so it's human nature to look at what are those things I need to fix about myself. It wasn't until like a few years later where I really started diving in, and my learner, which learner is, if you pique a learner's curiosity on a subject, they will go down all the rabbit holes, they will watch all the videos, they will read all the books. We just love to take in information. And my learner really went into overdrive about 2 or 3 years ago. And I started to just understand more about Clifton Strengths and the philosophy behind it, and also starting to understand how those strengths that were in my profile applied to me. And it's really helped me. It's helped me make decisions in my life in terms of, what jobs I should, approach or what might fit my talents. It's helped me understand how to have relationships with other people. It's helped understanding my own strengths. Has helped me understand the strengths and talents of other people. And when you can understand that, it really helps facilitate communication and collaboration. What's interesting about Clifton Strengths is, even though it's called Clifton Strengths, it actually doesn't identify your strengths. It identifies your talent, your natural talents, those natural places where you instinctively think, feel, and behave. What a strength is if you take those natural talents, those ones at the top of your strengths profile that indicate where you have the greatest potential for success, if you take investment in time, in effort, in practice, in really building those skills, then they can truly become strengths. A weakness.
And is that like really where coaching is beneficial, or where you're like doing group activities and things like maybe as a team together to actually help the person do something about it, hey?
Yes, because the more you can lean in and understand how the talents show up for you, and you can practice using them, the more you can more accurately aim them towards an objective or goal. And whether that is an individual or as a team, the more you are able to have that conversation, the more that you're able to figure out how do I apply my empathy in an effective way? Or how do you, Yuka, apply your activator in the most effective way? The more you get to practice that, the more you'll be able to do it almost without even thinking. It will become, just natural to you.
I love Gallup's work and the research that they do on staff engagement and productivity. Can strengths help teams to be more engaged? What are your views around that?
Absolutely. And Gallup, you're right, has an incredible amount of data. That is what they do. And the most recent book they put out, called It's the Manager, has a ton of information specifically around engagement of a team. And one of the things that they found is that manager level really does have the most impact in terms of engagement with employees. And one of the really interesting facts that Gallup has found is that while it's not surprising that if a manager focuses in on an employee's talents and strengths in working together, their engagement goes up. And if they focus in more on their weaknesses, the engagement is less so. But what's surprising, if somebody feels like their manager is not paying attention to them at all, strengths or weaknesses, it actually turns from engagement to active disengagement. They might actively become that person that is working against the needs of the organization. So working with your employees and specifically with strengths is really important there.
So when employees become actively disengaged, is that where they actually start damaging the reputation? What would they typically be doing?
It's anything that's going to be working against the team, getting to success, whatever that success is. It could be, talking bad, it could be not delivering on something that somebody else on the team needs. It's almost like an acting out. It's a feeling like, if I'm not being cared for, why should I care about the needs of the organization or the team?
So when I studied NLP, it was all about people are unique. You can never put them in a box. You cannot possibly read someone's mind. Just because someone is crossing their arms doesn't mean this or this. Just if someone cries doesn't mean that they're sad or they're mad. You need to ask them. It can be an indicator. It's still only an indicator. It could have had an impact on how I felt on the day or the thoughts going through my mind while I was answering the questions, guiding it. So if I'm going to steadfast just say, this is the only way that I am, these are my weaknesses, the ones at the bottom of the list, some of them I could grow and improve on as well. But yeah.
Well, I think that goes back to, let's redefine what a weakness is. A weakness isn't necessarily those talents are at the bottom of your profile. A weakness, as defined by Gallup, is anything that gets in the way of your success. So by that, your top talents could be a weakness. The other thing to point out is, just because something's at the bottom of your talent, your strengths profile, doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to get those same results. It just means that they don't live naturally in you. So for instance, you have strategic at number 9. It's fairly high in your profile. Mine's number 34. It's at the very bottom. That doesn't mean I'm not a strategic person, but in the realm of Clifton Strengths, what strategic means is somebody that can instinctively and quickly sort through information and figure out a decision forward. I can do that. It doesn't happen instantaneously for me. It takes, there's a lot of things that I need to take into consideration to get there. So I might lean in on my empathy or my individualization to assess, what are people feeling? What do people need in order to sort through that information and make a decision? So there's ways to use your upper talents, your more dominant talents, in order to compensate for those that are at the bottom.
I was thinking in a team context, how much this could actually help a manager and the team when they know each other's strengths or talents, and when they can, I don't know, when they can see someone's core strength is maybe strategic, like you say, to then ask those people to lead a brainstorming session or or things like that, to just lean more on those talents, allowing those people to thrive more on those things that they're really good at.
Yes, I think that, and I would caution against specifically putting people into roles based off of just their talent themes. It really is about what you've seen them do and what they actually really thrive in doing. So someone with strategic is likely going to be a good person to lead a brainstorming session because they'll be able to help sort through all of the ideas floating around. But I would definitely also take into consideration who that person is and how they like to interact in those types of situations. Because you never want to use the talents as a label, because they show up differently with every single person.
We've noticed this and this and this about you. What would you like to volunteer doing or doing differently, for instance? Would that be a better approach than just saying, we want you to do this?
Yes. I mean, I think one of the great things, like I think a great manager can do, is make sure you're having these conversations with the people that you manage. Don't make assumptions based off of whether it's Clifton Strengths or anything. Really have the conversations. There's an activity that we often do with teams called the Best of Us. And it's having people fill out 4 buckets, and then you could look at it collectively as a team. So it's, you get the best of me when. So allow someone to tell you what situations or circumstances they're going to really thrive in. Is it, throw me in with a group of a lot of people? Is it, I like to work on my own? Is it, I need a lot of time analyzing data, or I just give me some time to think things through? Or is it, I want to make decisions in the moment? The other is you get the worst of me when, and usually that is the opposite of, the best of me. Like, what are those scenarios where, it might be like, please never put me in a spot where I'm at the front of the room leading, because I will freeze up. The other two questions are, please ask me to do more of. And I think this is a really important one that we don't think. It's like, there might be something that someone just really enjoys doing, but their job doesn't naturally allow them to do it. So you want to be able to make sure that when possible, you can put them in those positions, because yearning to do something is an indicator that there is a talent and a strength there. And then the last one is, please never ask me to do again. Now, of course, as a manager, you're going to probably get, please never ask me to fill out a timesheet or submit expenses or things like that. And there's going to be things that, people have to do. You can never only ever do the things that, you're in love with 100% of the time. But those 4 questions, a manager and an employee, or as a team looking at those 4 questions overall, can really help you figure out how to move your employees forward and how to move a team forward.
So can I just summarize that I have them down? So the first one is, you'll get the best of me when. Is that right?
Yes.
The second one was, the worst of me when. Third was, please ask me to do more of. And the fourth is, please never ask me to do again.
Yes.
I think these are great for marriages and couples
yes.
and dating sites.
It's also great if you're, you could do that on your own too, and help yourself reveal what are those things that, and then that's an opportunity. You go into a performance review and you can share that with, your manager. It doesn't have to be using the Clifton Strengths terms, activator, individualization. It's more about how they show up and what are those needs that you have. And it really allows, it might be you going to your manager going, hey, you keep pressuring me to give decisions on the spot. Is there a way to go, okay, what is the core thing we're struggling with? And how can we take a look at your top talents and apply them to reach that end, as opposed to it trying to be fixing something that it's going to take exceptionally more energy and time for someone to go from bad to only mediocre. But for someone to go to good to great or great to exceptional, that actually takes less energy.